This is your sign to play Spiritfarer. Spiritfarer at its core is a cozy game with some light sim management mechanics. You spend the majority of your time on your boat traveling around a very picturesque world, collecting materials like ore and wood, ingredients that you can cook with, and trinkets. You use your resources to upgrade your boat, build structures on your boat, and make your passengers happy. The more structures you build, the more items and resources you can craft, which you then use to build better structures or enhance them further. A classic and rewarding loop in sim gaming. But this game is so much more than that, and the heart of it lies with its passengers. The game is a spin on the Greek myth of the river Styx, and you play as Stella. She just became the new ferry master of the dead alongside her cat Daffodil. You and Daffodil's duty is to take care of spirits, and you take care of them in two ways. In a materialistic way by giving them food, building them a house on your ship, upgrading said houses, doing different quests for them, and gifting them things. But of course you have to take care of them in an emotional sense as well. It's Stella's duty to help these spirits come to terms with the fact that they have died, and you need to help them cross the Everdoor into the afterlife. You are the bridge between limbo and eternal peace. This makes the game so emotional. You build very strong connections with these spirits and get to know their personalities very well. And while all these spirits take the form of an animal, they all seem very human. They aren't all inherently good or evil. They have flaws, they make mistakes, they have regrets from their life on Earth. They're afraid of being dead, but they also love deeply. They remember their friends and family fondly. They all want to learn how to be better, and they all want peace. You can see a lot of your own friends and family in these spirits, and maybe you'll be able to see a little bit of yourself in them as well. Take Alice, for example. She is the sweetest little old lady that you'll ever have the privilege to ferry around on your ship. She will remind a lot of us of our own grandmothers, and as her story unfolds, you'll become incomprehensibly attached to her. That when the moment comes to bring her to the greater beyond, you'll be weeping like a little baby and you won't want to let go. I know I didn't. Okay, but the characters are also very demanding though. They are living on your ship and you're the sole provider for them. You need to keep their happiness meters high so you can progress their individual quests and stories so that you can eventually bring them to the Everdoor. The most prominent one is to keep them fed. You have to cook for these spirits so much. They're constantly hungry, they're picky, and they will get upset with you if you give them the wrong dish. You also build them houses and you upgrade them with furniture and items, and this will progress their story and keep their happiness meters way high. And finally, you can give them hugs, a small gesture to remind us all that all we need is a little bit of love to be happy. The spirits don't just sit around and do nothing though. Well, okay, some of them do. Besides their personalities being apparent by how they spend their time on the boat, they will also help you with resource farming. Each of the first 5 or so spirits will give you a blueprint of a production building for you to build, and they'll teach you how to use them. For example, your first spirit, Gwen, will ask you to build her a loom. You'll be able to weave fibers to create thread, and you can use thread to create fabric. Atul asks you to build a sawmill for you to chop some logs. Astrid will teach you how to use the foundry to smelt metal ores into ingots. Not only will they teach you, but they'll also use these production buildings to give you extra resources provided their happiness is high enough. I was pleasantly surprised when Atul, instead of asking me for more food even though I had just fed him, gave me some extra planks. Thanks, uncle. Okay, real quick. Spiritfarer was our game of the month for Video Game Book Club. And Video Game Book Club is a community that we run here at Buenale Games where we choose and play a different game every single month to completion. We host a podcast-style discussion to talk in depth about the story, the game mechanics, and the design of these games, as well as answer questions from our community. If you want to play alongside us, the best way to participate is to join our Discord, and I'll leave its link in the description below. Oh, also, don't forget to like and subscribe. Stella doesn't sit still either though. She jumps, she double jumps, she glides, she jumps on umbrellas, she ziplines, she's zooming. To be able to search the land for all of these resources, items, and secrets, you have to do some platforming. At first, you only have your jump, but as you gather more spirits, you'll be able to redeem more platforming moves that will have you backtracking and revisiting locations multiple times, just like a good old Metrovania. Doing this is key to advancing some of the more difficult passenger quests and upgrading some of the more resource-heavy production buildings. And on your ship, Stella is also constantly moving around as well. As you build more and more structures, your ship gets bigger and bigger, and your ADHD will kick in full force. You'll have dozens of things to do back to back to back. Gardening, conversation with your spirits, hugs, smelting metal, fishing, hugs, milling, hugs, baking, picking fruit, hugs, navigating, swimming, yes, hugs, catching lightning, defeating cardboard enemies, and more hugs. You told yourself you were only going to play for 30 minutes, and all of a sudden you've been sucked in by the game and it's 3 o'clock in the morning. But eventually, the game does feel a tad grindy for my liking. Not only because of the number of resources that some upgrades need, but some of the later production buildings are a pain to deal with. Also, each production building or world event has you play a small minigame to get the appropriate resource you're farming for. But if you fail it, the subsequent animation has you locked out for just a little bit too long that it becomes insanely frustrating. And finally, I don't think the game incentivizes you enough to keep your spirit's happiness meter high for the free resources because they barely give you anything. A tool will give me 3 planks if he's happy. But if I saw 1 log of wood in the sawmill perfectly, I get 6 planks. So why am I wasting my time feeding all of these spirits when I have to be grinding for resources? Like, obviously I'm gonna feed them, but it's just a little bit annoying. I wish the spirits' help would feel more substantial. It would be so interesting for them to be so useful to you that you would have an even bigger crisis when you eventually bring them to the Everdoor and you lose them forever. You not only lose them emotionally, but you also lose a huge help in your ship. Spiritfarer is an extremely touching game, and the developers have built something very special. Having that cathartic moment when you bring a spirit to the Everdoor and they cross into the beyond is both devastating and beautiful. And then eventually you'll realize what the true meaning of Stella's journey is. But I will not spoil that here. We gave this game a B+ on our Video Game Book Club report card, and I hope you take this video as your sign to play Spiritfarer. Gracias y adiós.